All right. I'll have a cigar with Jeff.
We are recording the Really Unfiltered Real Estate Podcast, renamed. We used to call it the Broke Broker Podcast, but nobody needs to be broke. So let's start talking about unfiltered stuff to really find success. And we're excited to relaunch this today after a little time off with my health scare and everything else going on. But we are back and we're excited to have some great guests over the next coming few months to talk about some really things that'll just help you get beyond where you're stuck, really, because a lot of people are just stuck. And I recently got to know about Rick a little bit, start following a lot of his stuff, and I like where he's coming from with a lot of his ideas and his thoughts on how to become successful and how to get yourself beyond your hurdles or whatever's holding you back and really find success in any market. Because when we were just chatting about this before we jumped on here, no matter where you are in a country as an agent, there's a lot of agents that aren't saying, wow, this is a sweet market. A lot of agents and loan officers are saying, well, I mean, the sales are down across the country, no matter what. And they're either down because there's a lot of inventory, not a lot of buyers, which is happening in some markets. And then we're in the Northeast, we're at a lack of inventory. So we don't have the sales because there's no inventory. So either way, there's less sales to go around. And it's a game of getting more of the sales that are left around in your pockets and in your hands. So Rick, I asked you a question and you started going crazy on it. And I want to hear you go crazy on it now. Like, you interview a lot of agents and loan officers and you talk to them and you create partnerships with agents and loan officers, which we'll talk about a little bit more as well. But where do you see commonality in successes and failures for both loan officers and agents? Because I think they're all mostly the same.
Yeah, and thanks again. Thanks for having me. Thanks for reaching out and allowing me to come on the show and share my perspective on the industry and on helping people grow. And I really appreciate it. I hope that people listening to this walk away from this call with some great nuggets that can help them grow their business. Because I think that's what we're all doing this for, right? Is to help others that are struggling. And in terms of what challenges we all have in the industry, I think one of the biggest challenge is just being distracted. Because if you look at it from a big picture, we help families accomplish the American dream of home ownership. Big picture, that's what we do. And as lenders, it's our job to develop a realtor partnership and get that realtor referral. For the realtor, it's their job to go out to the customer and get a client. And it's all of our jobs to provide value. So instead of what I find in our industry is we're so focused on the things that we can do. We're so focused on the reasons people can't buy a home. We don't focus on our values. We don't focus on the reasons they should. And if we started focusing on our value and started putting in more work, more effort, like, we could easily overcome this challenging market.
Right. So you mentioned something to me that I want to hear you say again. What should agents be doing and loan officers be doing that they're just not? They're not putting time in, right?
They're not putting the time. Yeah, they're not prospecting. I think we're talking earlier, I was like, we look at, interest rates are high, and we make the excuse that people want to buy because interest rates are high. We make the excuse that people can't qualify. At the end of the day, there's people that can. And if you spend your time picking up the phone and prospecting and making your dials and doing your activity, whatever the activity is, you're going to find people that can, or find families that you can help get into home ownership. It's a numbers game. The reason you get so successful when the market is hot is because you have to reach out to less people to get a transaction. Right. When the market gets slow, you just got to reach out to more people, but the business is still there. And when you break it down to like simple terms like that, it's just so much easier.
I mean, really, the market was hot enough for a while where you could just run into deals.
Yeah. Lenders would just sit at their desk and their phone would ring all day long and they're closing 20 units a month. Well, that's not happening anymore. So now you have to do activities to get your phone to ring. And that's the biggest challenge, is that on both sides of the space, we have the ability, but we're just lacking the execution of doing those activities to create the phone ringing.
Right. So for you, I know, looking at your profile, learning about you seem like someone that just comes across like, oh, I could pick up the phone, no problem, and never have any fears. But something you mentioned to me, I think was pretty enlightening, was it's no easier for you than it is anyone else.
Yeah, I get hung up on too. Like yesterday, I have my tracker sheets. I write down all the people I'm going to prospect every single day. And sometimes they hang up on me, man. I had this one realtor I was following up with for like 2, 3 weeks. We were supposed to have a scheduled call yesterday. I texted her 30 minutes before the call. I said, "Are we still good for a 30-minute call?" And she responded, "Yes, we are." I called her, no answer. I texted her, no response. Completely ghosted me. I'm just thinking to myself, like, happens to me too. But you can't look at the rejection. I got to look at the successes because I don't need to have 20 successes a day. If I can have one, that's 5 a week. That's 20 a month. That's massively huge. I just need to have one success. And if it takes me 20 calls to have one success, that's pretty freaking easy. Right? Like
Love it.
what's
Yep.
the alternative? Like I could be digging ditches.
Right.
Screw that.
Right.
Well, I mean, the big thing right now, Rick, in the Northeast that I'm finding is we're in that little lull right now in the marketplace. Um, I'm seeing price reductions. I'm seeing properties sit a little longer, not because we have a lot of inventory. It's just the general public is listening to the media. They're listening to people on YouTube and they're worried about the rates. When are the rates going to come down? We helped a client of ours. They're going to be closing on a home, hopefully right before Thanksgiving. We got them a $25,000 down payment assistance program through one of the mass housing programs here. Yes, their rate's going to be a little bit higher, but they just got a $25,000 down payment assistance. They got a $10,000 seller credit to help with their closing cost, and they're going to be in their home. So when rates do come down, they're going to be refinancing. If all those buyers out there are waiting for rates to come down in February, March, April, whenever it's going to happen, whenever you have your little magic ball, can you tell us when rates are coming down? Then we're going to see the feeding frenzy, and they're going to be paying $50,000 more for that same house.
They're going to be paying $50,000 more, and their monthly payment's going to be significantly more, right? Because at the end of the day, what does it come down to? Your monthly payment on that house.
Right.
And if rates drop, you have millions of people sitting on the sidelines waiting.
Correct.
Right.
So the best time to buy a house, if you want to time the market, guys, the best time to buy right now is today.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Right. I was talking to a lender the other day that said 100% of everybody that closed with him at a rate higher than 7% has already refinanced at when the market hit its low,
Yeah.
a month and a half ago. They all were on an automatic queue for updates, and they all refinanced and got high fives, low six.
Well,
so
and then you also got to consider the ones that didn't. So there's probably, and I don't know the exact numbers. The NBA did a report. I think like 30% of the people are still refinanceable over 7. But of that percentage, the servicers are getting smart and they're doing some special offers for them because they know that why am I going to let another mortgage company refinance it, buy it back, pay that premium? So they're getting smart and catching on and offering better deals. So
Right.
for a lot of mortgage companies that are dependent upon that refi boom to stay solvent and make it through, gonna have a tough time.
Right. Right. Well, personally, I think this also segues into what you're focusing a lot of time on, which is agent lending partnerships and relationships, because I personally think that you have to have a lot more skills. And if you don't have all that information and knowledge to yourself, you have to have a partner that has the knowledge, because the equation of when should I buy, when should I sell has become a lot more complex. It's not hey, the market's fantastic, you should buy. Hey, the market's fantastic, you should sell. We haven't had that for a while now. You got to be smarter to be able to have really in-depth conversations with the consumer to tell me about your goals. Like, I can't help you make a smart decision for yourself until I know a lot more. And even then we may not have a clear choice, but we're going to have a smarter choice versus a not so smart choice. And, whether that's, renting versus owning or whatever it is, or downsizing or staying put for a while longer, those are complicated conversations. And a lot of agents alone aren't prepared to have those. I think having good partnerships kind of brings to a table another level of value to the customer instead of just saying, well, let me refer you to someone that I don't even have a relationship with. Hey, this is someone I work with every day. They could really help you answer some of these questions. I think that's highly important. What are you doing in that world of agent and loan officer kind of relationships and partnerships?
So, okay, you went a lot of different directions with that question.
So agent loan officer partnerships, how valuable do you see those, and what are you doing
Okay, so
to encourage
yeah,
those?
so what I think is really, which as I was hearing you talking about that, I was thinking about like, yeah, you're right. We need more showcasing of value through those type of partnerships. So I would think that if I were a realtor today in today's market, today's world, I would want to be doing weekly video content with all of my different partners. So this is my mortgage partner explaining the process, explaining the products, explaining maybe whatever the perspective is of that partner. So from a lender, it could be products, it could be mortgage process, it could be improving your credit score, well, maybe not improving your credit score, but steps you can take to start the path of homeownership. Then interview your inspector and talk about what an inspection is. As realtors, how many times have you gotten the inspection back to your client and the client freaks out because all these things are wrong, and you're like, no, that's actually one of our better ones.
Right.
Same thing like with the appraisal. I think now, and Derek touched on it earlier when he was talking about the media and how people get the wrong perspective of what's going on in our industry. I think now more than ever, we as professionals in the industry have to be professionals of our industry and educate the consumer.
Yeah, totally. Educate themselves too. If you're an agent or you're a loan officer,
I
and
mean,
I mean, the
that
loan
too.
officer should be understanding more about the agent side. The agent side should be understanding and educating themselves more on the loan side in addition to their own profession. Because I think, one thing that's come to me is clear from all this stuff that's happened with NAR and August 17th deadline and all this other stuff is the consumer world and through the DOJ is demand. And you guys in the mortgage world went through this, what, 8, 9, 10 years ago? We're just got clipped now. But both of those moves with the consumer protection industry and all that other stuff with truth in lending and what was the thing that the 3-day RESPA and all that other stuff, right? That it's the consumer world demanding better.
Yeah, they're trying to, with all that, like I just roll my eyes because it's like they're trying to fix a problem, but they don't understand what the problem is.
Right.
So they're just making it so much worse.
It's true.
Like this whole thing with the NAR and the real, man, it drives me nuts because like I am a huge believer of the importance of the real estate agent. I'm a huge believer of the importance of the realtor in the transaction. What is that noise? Do y'all hear that?
I think it was Derek's coffee shop.
I wasn't sure if it was me. That's fine.
Yeah, Derek, unmute yourself when you need to.
Yeah, like I just see the importance of the realtor. To me, a realtor is just as important of having an attorney. Because if I'm buying the biggest purchase of my life, why would I want somebody serving me, representing me? Why would I want somebody representing me?
Right.
So I feel like that's another thing that we just got to do a better job of getting that messaging out there and that content out there. Because right now we're all kind of looked at as like a checker at a bank. I don't know. No disrespect to checkers at a bank.
It's true. It's true. And it made me think of something that, before, and there's a lot of pushback on the ways they're going about this. And I totally think that, asking someone to sign a contract or a showing tour agreement before you've ever even met them is insane and ridiculous to the consumer to say, oh, we haven't even met each other face to face yet, but you got to sign something. I think it's completely ridiculous. However, I do think the premise behind it and what their goal of it was important because in the past, I really feel like the consumer ended up with a buyer's agent a lot of times just out of matter of chance. Like, okay, we went to show you this house and now you want to make an offer or you want to keep looking. Well, now you've got me as a buyer's agent instead of, and sometimes a client's got a good one and sometimes a client's got a bad one. You know, there was
Yeah,
no,
like
there
how
was
does
no,
the client know how to interview a buyer's agent, right?
they don't. And we've,
They don't. They want to buy a house and they know somebody from church or
and maybe that's some of the
friend
messaging
of a
that you
friend.
have to get out there. But I also reiterated on a call earlier today that you really have to have an offer of true value. Like, what is your offer? You know, for those of us in the sales industry that follow people like Alex Hormozy, it's like, what is your like, what is your offer that is almost irrefusable? Like, I get all this benefit of working with you. Why wouldn't I want to work with you? You know, that's the
Right.
level I think agents and loan officers have to start thinking. It's not, we're not in an order taking industry anymore. And it may never be that way again. I wouldn't be waiting for those days. I would be honing my skills.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope not. I hope it doesn't go back. I think we all need to get better and improve as a profession and as an industry.
Yeah.
And it starts off by listening to content like this and, keeping people like you or better than you that you want to aspire to be in your circle.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in real quick. I hope it never goes back. You know, I agree with the way that Real took the approach. We burnt the ships.
Yes.
You know, our local market, our MLS gave us a workaround. Real said, no, we're not taking it. You know, so it is strictly that the seller is going to pay the buyer broker directly. We're not offering no compensation. I still get calls from people saying, hey, you guys offering compensation? It's like, just the contract's changed. The problem is the industry doesn't get educated enough. They haven't even seen the new contract. It's in there. Just write your number in. So for the buyer agents that work with us, we all get a pay raise. We now get to dictate what we want to be paid. And I like how you said that the buyers really don't know how to interview the buyer agents. We're interviewing the buyers now. It's, who do I want to work with? How serious are you? Are you going to use my preferred lender so we know this deal is going to close on time? Or are you going to use someone that we don't want to use or respect? So I think it's a great thing for the industry.
Absolutely.
And sorry about the background noise.
Oh, no worries. So Rick, you spent a lot of your time in your position. Why don't you tell you a lot of coaching.
I'm sorry, you cut out for like 10 seconds. The audio cut out. Start over.
Okay, I was just saying, I know in your position as senior VP for what, Federal Savings Bank, correct?
Correct.
You spent a lot of your time coaching loan officers and bringing loan officers into the company. What do you, when you run into someone that's not prospecting the way they should, how do you help encourage them to, create some new habits and get back to the basics of building their business? How, because I'm sure you get a lot of pushback, like I get a lot of pushback on, what other ways are there? What other ways are there to not have to pick up the phone? Like, how do you helping people with that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? And I'm glad I'm getting that question at a season of my life where I know how to answer it. Because if you would have asked me that question on Facebook Live a couple years ago, I'd probably be having an anxiety attack. Like, I don't want to look dumb answering this question. But it's a challenging question because like there is no right answer. Um, everybody everybody learns and everybody's at different parts of the journey in their business and in their life, right? So like where you and I may be in our journey could be very different than Derek. Derek could be at the beginning. So where you and I have had 5 to 10 years of cold calling and we've already like gotten our skin toughened up and our teeth kicked in for years and we're insensitive now to being told no, we're fine doing that. Derek, the new realtor, may not be. And it's going to be so much more harder for him to make 2 calls in a day when I'm making 20. So I think you just have to, what I try to do anyways, is just let them know, like, look, it's okay. You're gonna suck. You're gonna be terrible at this at first, because the only way to get better is to do it. When you were a baby and you wanted to start walking, you didn't just get up and start walking immediately. You fell down over and over. I mean, shit. My 6-year-old daughter has bumps and bruises all over her because she constantly fell down. But we didn't say let's stop her from learning how to walk. Like, that's part of the process. Bumps and bruises are part of the process of learning and getting good at a skill set. So if we're going to, and man, I've been rambling, I forgot what the question was. Uh, well, how I coach people that aren't there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I think that you just have to, the way I approach it is I bring them the content. Here's the script. Here's how you do it. I'll do it with you. We'll do it together. But I can't get upset or disappointed if they don't do it. I can't get upset or disappointed if they don't have the success, because they're not going to have the success for a while, because you just get better the more you do it.
Yeah. And personally, I know this as well, being a broker for many, many years. And obviously I'm not the broker of record anymore working for real, but I still coach agents, and it's frustrating being a coach,
Oh,
because you can get periods of success. Like, it's hard to find an agent that's just really got the discipline to just do it over and over again and never get tired, and not, find some business and then get too busy and then drop the prospecting gig and then end up on that roller coaster. You know, any thoughts you have for how do you maintain, how do you find the discipline, and then how do you maintain the discipline?
that's man, that's a good question. Um, I feel that you got to have your why. You have to know what it is for you, and then use that to push yourself every day. And you have to understand that the results just come from the consistency. You're not going to close anything, or one day is going to make a difference. It's stacking those days every single day, and they eventually add up. And that's just a hard thing to grasp. I don't know how to get somebody to grasp that. I would just keep sharing with them, sharing, not telling, not because people don't want to be told. People don't want to be, you got to share it with them and help them see it in their own time and their own perspective.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's become progressively harder too, because we live in worlds of clippets. Most things we do on a daily basis are little short segments of time, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. If it gets longer than 3 to 5 minutes, we become distracted and we're on to
Yep.
something else. So to sit down and you can't do prospecting in 1 minute increments. You can't make one call now and one call 3 hours from now and then another end of the day and call it a good day of prospecting. Those are follow-up calls, if anything. That's not real prospecting. So I think you have to be disciplined. It's got to be scheduled. You got to have a quiet place. There can't be any distractions. And you got to, like, I agree, you got to go into it until you're really seeing that success daily. Just realize you're going to suck at it. And the first call is
Yeah.
going to be very terrifying. And by the time you're on the fifth call, it's starting to feel pretty better. And you just have to think of it from that perspective of, this is necessary. It's not fun. It's ugly. But I also try to remind agents I coach sometimes of, find a couple moments in your time when things were really, really uncomfortable. And usually they're financially related. A car that you thought was going to get repossessed, a mortgage payment that you were worried you were going to get a foreclosure notice on, and have those visible in the front of your mind, because I can tell you that those prospecting calls are a lot less terrifying than thinking you're going to lose your car or your house. And if you can hold those both emotions and say, this one, it's this or this, it's like, there's nothing in between. In between is no fun either, just doing it sometimes. And the roller coaster of real estate and loans are not fun either. Making a bunch of money 1 month and then nothing for 3 months, and then maybe hitting a few more again. That's not fun either.
But
Tracy, I'll jump in 1 second here, Rick. It's something that Rick touched on earlier, where the market's just different today. Okay. The days of the loan officer, like you said, sitting at their desk and just deals keep coming in and coming in. I had a meeting earlier today with a really good realtor. And, and my reason for coffee with them was more or less like, hey, what's going on? I saw that you did X amount of transactions last year, and this year you're struggling. What are you doing? What's changed? And a lot of times, Rick, agents got into this business and they didn't have to make the calls. Okay. They were getting leads from their company, and there was enough inventory and rates were low. The bar of entry was just so lower. Now, like you said, you have to make more of those phone calls to get that opportunity to get the right person. So everything you're saying, where um, where you can't get frustrated if they don't make the calls. I disagree. I get frustrated all the time when I spend 45 minutes or something. I'm like, just make the calls. But like Tracy said, he usually sees me in a cigar bar. I usually go and prospect in a cigar bar. Why? I'm a little bit more relaxed. I have a cigar. I make my calls. I know I can have 2 cigars in about 3 hours, and I can get about 30 to 45 calls in it. So that's my little bit of advice to people: is go somewhere where you're comfortable making those calls. And that way you're not sitting there staring at a blank wall in front of you. Put yourself in a position where you're comfortable.
Yeah, I love that point. And I'll add to that. If I get someone on the phone call, for me, the amount of time of the phone call is one of the most important factors. How long can we chit chat about your goals, your life, what you like to do, where you work, your family, et cetera? Like, how long can I make that call last? And for me, if I'm getting into a good conversation, I have to step away from my computer with my earbuds in, and maybe even just go sit on the couch if I'm at home. Because if not, my mind will get distracted, and I won't be truly listening to that call. And they know that. They know when you're not listening. So if you're doing something else or reading your emails while you're having that conversation, not good. So, and you won't, to me, the most effective conversations are when you ask the best questions, and you can't ask the best questions if you're not listening intently, because sometimes it's the question to get them to answer the question you really want them to answer. If you ask too fast or you ask in the wrong way, you might not get the answer you're looking for. So like it's extremely important to be actively listening, because that's your chance. That's your one chance. Think of it as your one chance. You have somebody captive on the other end. If you can keep them on the phone for 25 minutes and really build a rapport, you've got them. And you don't have to worry as much about all the other distractions that are in front of them, including other realtors or other loan officers, if you've really got that connection built.
Something y'all both were talking about was making the prospecting calls. I'm curious, you're both real estate brokers. How many, and obviously you probably don't have the exact numbers, but just off the top of your head, if I was a brand new realtor, how much time a day would I have to spend prospecting to make 6 figures?
Per day, 5 days a week? I think you could do it in 2 to 3 hours a day.
Yeah, I would say about 2 to 3 hours.
So 2 to 3 hours.
Yes.
So we'll say 2.5, 3, 2.5. So that's 2.5, 5, 10, 11.5 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
And you can make 6 figures.
Yeah.
How many hours a week are people working at normal 9 to 5 jobs right now? At least 40.
Way too many.
But at least 40, right? And if in our industry, if you only spend 25% of the time you're working, only 25%, 10 hours prospecting, you make 6 figures.
Yeah.
That's
and the best part,
True.
Rick, the best part is I tell them to this all the time. And like you said, a lot of times they're going to be very bad, but you're only bad in your own mind.
Yep.
The consumer on the other end, what I try to tell agents all the time, they haven't bought or sold anything in 10, 15 years. So a lot of times the thing that's holding the agents back on making the calls, it's between their ears.
Yep.
The consumer has no clue. We're just calling. I think they're the easiest calls in the world. I love when I have a pre-approved buyer from someone like Rick that's ready to go, and they want to buy in a certain neighborhood. We'll buy that data, we'll call. And the calls are easy. You take Rick, I got a pre-approved buyer ready to go. They can close on your time frame. Do you plan on selling your house in the next 6 months? It's the easiest call in the world to make.
Yep.
So yeah, I would say 2 to 3 hours a week. 2 to 3 hours a day. And a lot of times agents get freaked out because, like you said, of the no's. You just gotta keep going through them.
Or the I don't know who to call, which a good coach can help you with who to call.
I'll get you a list. Very easy.
Those are the excuses that tend to be made. And you know what? If agents are listening to this call, or loan officers are listening to this call, and they're thinking, well, that's me. I make every excuse under the book. It's okay. Most of us have come into this business as terrible employees. And now we're expecting ourselves to be good employees of our own, we're our own boss, and we're not even acting as good employees for ourselves. Well, of course not, because we were bad employees for other people. We end up in this business because we don't fit the norm. We're a strange group. It's like, of course it's not going to be easy, and it never is. And you're going to have times where you're like, okay, I'm going to get on this, and you do it, and then you're going to fall off, and you got to get back on, and you're going to have good times and bad times, and you're going to have periods of time where you feel like you're making no progress. I hear that a lot right now as agents making calls this time of year. Like, I'm making a lot of calls, but I feel like I'm getting nowhere. But it's okay. You're planting seeds for next year. You're planting
It
seeds.
just takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, exactly.
The conversion window has lengthened.
I mean,
that's all that's happened.
Exactly. And I've had agents tell me, I don't know why I leave voicemails. Nobody ever calls me back. I'm like, you are underestimating the power of a well left voicemail. You really are. And it's just, it's not easy. It's never going to be easy. That's why the ones that do it and do it well make a lot of money, and the ones that don't.
It's funny you're talking about the voicemails, because literally my boss and I yesterday were making YouTube videos on how to cold call and our scripts. And we did a video on why nobody's calling you back from your voicemail, because your voicemail sucks. And he did a perfect voicemail on how to get people to call him back. And it was great. So it's so funny that you touched on that like those are kind of the fundamentals now that are more important than ever before.
What was the nature of that call? Can you repeat it, or do you know what he said in it?
So he has a script on how he'll leave the voicemail, but basically most people leave the voicemail like, hey Tracy, this is Rick over at Federal Savings Bank. I'm a local lender. I'd love to work with you. Give me a call back, blah, blah, blah. And you get that voicemail, and you're like, I'm not going to call this guy back. And the way he did it, I'm not going to do it as good, but he had this layout where he's like, hey Tracy, I hope you're having a great day. This is Rick, and look, I have like he kind of sputtered a little bit. He's like, I have a question I need to ask you about this property that we I'll tell you what, give me a call back because I really need your help with something. But I'm butchering it, but the way he did it was just so thoughtful and connected in that call.
Can you send us a YouTube link after this? I'd love to hear it.
Oh, dude, yeah. So I just it's private on Facebook right now because I'm waiting for him to review it. But yeah, I'll send it over to you. And like that's the thing that we're doing now as a leadership team. So you asked this question earlier. What are some things that you're doing? We talk, but as a leadership team, he and I, like, dude, we're role playing scripts ourselves and the leadership team, so that we can bring it back down to our salespeople.
Awesome.
Like, who does that?
I love it. I love it. And you know what? By you repeating it, if you left that voicemail, you would get responses, even though you feel like you didn't do it as good as him. And I think that's an important point. Is like, I follow Phil Jones a lot, exactly what to say. I can promise you, I will never be a conversationalist at Phil Jones's level. Like, he is an absolute master. And I'll take stuff and I'm fumbling it up the way the way that he does it to the way I do it, but I'm still seeing success from it. So it's like, it doesn't matter if you're not going to be perfect. You're going to take pieces from a bunch of these different things that you're following, even this, and you make it your own. You still got to be comfortable doing it, because if you're not comfortable saying it or asking it in your own tone, in your own way, it's just never going to work. You got to be your authentic you, but add in some of those, those things like Phil Jones does for asking effective questions and listening for the question within the question and things like that. And it's becoming the best version of yourself at it, not somebody else. Because if you sound like somebody else and try to be somebody else, it's just not going to work.
Be you. Yeah.
I mean, people want to connect with people too. I think that's I don't know. Maybe it's because we're in the professional industry and we get bombarded by salespeople all day long. I mean, how many people are trying to sell us some software product or some coaching program or the next
custom suits?
I get 100 calls a day that I don't answer, and I know they're spam because I know where they're coming from. And so it's like, but the consumer public isn't bombarded as much as we are. And I think we forget that people do want to connect with other humans. And there's an element, I think, that's gone missing for a lot of people I've had some agents I'm coaching that have hour-and-a-half conversations with people on the phone. Like, they were lacking human connection, talking about the things that interest them and that they want to do, you know, and a lot of people don't have that close friend or somebody that they can say, hey, you know, I'm thinking about buying a house, but here's all my concerns. Here's my worries. You know, here's where I'm at with my credit. They want someone to talk to about that. And you just have to find those people in the mix of phone numbers you get, whether it's lists that you get or you're capturing leads through Facebook or whatever it may be. People want to talk. You just have to find
Right.
the people to have conversations with. It looks like we lost Derek, but
Yeah,
uh,
he put in the chat box. He
so
had a 12:30 appointment.
is
Make sure
there
that's for him.
anything we'll end pretty quickly here. We won't drag on forever because we'll start losing people anyways, but give us some insight into how Federal Savings Bank is different and what you guys are doing that you really feel is something special.
Yeah, so thanks for asking. I think there's a ton of things that we're doing different, but I think it starts with the approach of the bank. So the Federal Savings Bank isn't a traditional bank. They were actually a mortgage company, and then they went out and acquired a bank so they can offer the servicing, the portfolio, the better rates that the bank offers, and also a bank charter. So what's great about that is like from a loan officer, like now more than ever, it's getting hard to scale business because there's less business out there. Well, the loan officers that joined the Federal Savings Bank, we've had the bank charter. We provide them a license in 50 states. So it helps them really, expand 50x their potential connections in these different markets and states. So that's what something that's really unique. But I also think the perspective of the bank is geared towards how can we help our realtor partners close more deals? How can we help our loan officers close more deals? And we're always thinking, how can we say yes more to our realtor partners? So because we're a bank, we're able to offer some portfolio products. One of them that's real popular is our 10% down I-10 that we do in-house through the bank. We also have a 5% down and second home and a 15% down investment property. Pretty unique products. That's pretty cool. But to be honest, man, I really hate talking about products
Yeah.
because I think at the end of the day, like what it comes down to is all companies and banks pretty much offer the same thing. We could all do loans. I think what's most important is that you just work with people that are aligned with the way you want to do business and your perspective. People that are going to also work like you are, because
Right.
realtors are having to work harder. You should work with a lender that has to work harder. And in saying that, one of the things that we saw a hole in the industry is when the NAR lawsuit came out. Like we were very disappointed with how it came out, very disappointed with the new disclosure rules. But because of that, we saw an opportunity to offer a product that could help many more of our realtor partners in the industry. And that product, I think we call it the Smart Loan. I forget the exact name of it, but basically, every client that we do a mortgage for, as a bank, we will give them access to consumer bank loan a consumer bank loan up to $50,000, which they can use to pay their realtor commission after closing, or they can use that for updates and improvements in the home as well as anything else.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then we also have some other niche products that I can't talk about on the live in front of everybody, but we have something really cool where we're really helping realtors make more money, significantly more money on their current transactions with what they're currently doing.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I know you and I need to talk about after this as
Yeah, we
well.
talked about that. I wish
Yeah.
I wish I could shout it out here. The thing
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
we're very selective in that program, and I'm the gatekeeper, and I want to make sure that in that program we're helping the right people.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. It's something that I think was the reason we kind of quickly connected, because we are thinking outside
Yeah.
the box when it comes to some of that stuff. You know, we're doing the same thing. We've been aligning agents and lending partners and doing joint advertising campaigns instead of like splitting Zillow spend, which is like $800 per closing.
Yeah.
I mean, not really, like $800, $400 to $800 per lead, and then the numbers break down to like it's going to cost $8,000 to procure a closing. No one's making money on that, and that no matter what. And then you got on the other side, we are been super successful at running combined ads through a combined CRM to where the drips are both lending and agent based, educational value based to the consumer. So they're getting captured at a point of like looking for properties that are off MLS and finding opportunities that don't exist in the market right now. That's the capture point. But then the combined partnership of the agent and the loan officers is creating a very low procurement cost for the closing and for the loan. And we're also, evening the financials to where, the referral fee that the agent pays for those leads at closing goes back into the advertising fund
Oh,
instead
that's
of,
nice.
yeah, because Derek and I looked at it when we created this program under that'smytown.com where, the bag of money lower with the loan officer than it is with the agent. It's just the reality. In the loan world, you hope to do refinances and loans. You're just not making as much per deal. So it's never been equal when you've got agents or team leaders and loan officers saying, well, let's pool some money together and ad spend. And it's typically the loan officer saying, well, you want me to put in just as much money, but I don't make as much money. So we've kind of evened that out with some strategic partnerships, which you and I will talk about more. But if anybody's,
Yeah, I think that's very generous and very kind, but you don't hear that often from your side of the fence.
well,
So,
you got it.
I think
If
that's
it's not
amazing.
sustainable, it's not going to work long term. And most
Yeah.
most
But you're
lend,
being innovative.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When back in the day when I owned brokerages and franchises, it was all about the MSA. It
Right.
was how much money are you going to give me to come be at my luncheons to the same 12 people all the time, and just to be present in my office. And obviously those went away with the industry changes. But there's never been a lot of equality. So we've aimed to create some equality in advertising, lead capture, and lead conversion, because now you've got a team that's working on conversion instead of just one person making calls. You've got two, and then a possible VA making calls as well. We're able to convert at a higher percentage, drive the cost per closing down, and share the economy of the financials more equally across the board so that the partnerships actually work. So
I
that's
love
something
it.
I will talk about. But for anybody listening, there's, we talked a lot about prospecting today, which is obviously important, because even with these lead generation programs, very few are just coming automatically out of the woodwork and saying, yeah, I want to buy a house with you guys. It's still taking calls. It's still the basics. The basics drive it. But when we talk about who are you going to call, what we're setting up is partnership programs where you'll have plenty of people to call. They'll be actually raising their hand saying, I'm trying to buy a house, but I'm not finding what I'm looking for. And, it's a triage call when we get them on the phone. It's, tell me, what have you been doing? How long have you been looking? What have you made for offers? What do those offers look like? What do the pre-approval look like? Tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And by the time those calls end, we know exactly why they're not winning. We know exactly why they haven't bought a home yet. And we can triage that situation and help those consumers get to what their end goal was. And everyone's happy: loan officer, agent, the consumer. Everybody's created a win-win for all. So when you look at listening to this call, and where do I take it from here, is you got to make the calls, you got to prospect, you got to learn how to be good at prospecting. But there are partnerships and programs like the one that you guys have developed and the one that Derek and I have developed that are out there that help agents and loan officers, with maybe the technology side of who am I calling, and
Right.
and just how am I able to make enough money to survive and thrive in this business. So I like what you're doing. We'll talk more after this, but it's been great having you on. And
Same.
any leaving thoughts for anyone out there listening still?
Man, I would just say wherever you're at, wherever stage you're in your career, just keep making calls, keep doing the activity, and think that the way I look at it is you're just one call away from changing your entire life. One call can change it all. So just keep at it, and you never know, that next call, that one call could be today, tomorrow, next week. But I assure you, if you keep at it, you'll get it.
You will, for sure. Love it. All right. Thanks, Rick. Awesome call. Appreciate being on the podcast, and we'll chat soon.